and we're ready for it right now. On the virtual couch, we've got Dangers with Super Mario Odyssey. Take it away.
Hello, hello. How's it going out there, gamers? My name is Dangers, and today we're going to be doing some Super Mario Odyssey. Joining me on the couch, we got a couple of fancy gamers who also run this game. We have our lore master, Kerbis54.
Hello.
And also another very top contender of this category, Lucidity.
What's up, guys?
And today we're going to be running the World Peace category. Now, a lot of developments in this game have come about in the last year or so, and a lot of them have benefited some of the categories that aren't any percent, and I think that this run is a pretty dandy showcase of all of the things that you might not be able to see in any percent, but still kind of get a little bit of a decent package of the game in a very short amount of time. So that being said, I guess I'm ready. You guys ready?
I'm ready.
All right, let's do this. So counting down, we'll start in 3, 2, 1, go. Now, maybe the couch can explain a little bit what this run is all about.
Sure. So world peace is kind of a weird term, but at the very end of the game, once you beat Bowser, you go to the Mushroom Kingdom, and in the castle, there's a toadette there, and she will give you achievement moons based on things you may or may not have completed throughout your playthrough. And the very first one on her list of achievement moons is called Achieve World Peace. And that pretty much just means that you've done all of the story elements of the game. Like a lot of kingdoms you go to, you're not forced to complete the story. You just have to collect a certain number of moons to be able to leave. So this run is going to complete all of the story.
Yeah, what she actually is tracking is the multi-moon count. That's what she actually tracks to give you the moon for world peace, but you're actually able to skip some story elements. You'll see in Sand Kingdom and Snow Kingdom, we will be skipping some normal story moons. All that matters is that you get the multi-moons required to beat the story.
Yeah, basically just the last thing in the progression of the story for that kingdom is required to trigger the flag that you've achieved peace in that kingdom.
Yeah, and for a little clarification, if you've maybe never played this game, the game doesn't actually require you to beat the bosses in each of the levels to continue. All that it requires is for you to essentially just get enough moons to leave to power up the Odyssey to find the next place. And that number is always determined in the top left corner. And so in a lot of kingdoms, if you're trying to beat the game as fast as you can, you probably don't want to go out of your way to beat all the bosses, but this category makes that exception. And story moons are defined as moons that kind of continue the plot along. There's usually a cutscene associated with them that kind of points you in the next direction. And there's always like this beacon of light that kind of shines from the sky down onto these moons. So you're going to see that we're going to be collecting a lot of those, but like Lucidity said, there's 2 kingdoms where we don't bother with those.
All right, and since this is a speed run where we're going to complete most of the story elements, I feel inclined, as Danger said, I'm the lore master, I feel inclined to tell you guys all about the wonderful story of Super Mario Odyssey, because as we all know, the most important thing about a platformer is the story.
Of course.
So what's going on in this game is Bowser is trying to have a royal wedding with Peach, who he totally did not kidnap. It's not against her will or anything.
No, definitely not any kind of shotgun wedding going on here in the Mushroom Kingdom.
But the first 2 kingdoms here, Mario's just kind of getting his bearings straight. He fell down in this mysterious land where there's a bunch of talking hats. And in Cascade Kingdom, he's simply gonna go through and try to find a way to progress forward. But in every kingdom after this, there's going to be something that Bowser is trying to steal from that kingdom for his wedding.
So, the thing that you find in Cascade Kingdom is the Odyssey. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and just go to it. I missed the trick there, unfortunately. So, typically what we can do as speedrunners now is just kind of skip this whole cutscene over here, using a trick called Dino Skip Skip, which is wonderfully named. Avoids having to talk to Cappy about this Odyssey being here. avoids having to capture this dino just by jumping up the rock wall, but I missed my timing, unfortunately, so we're just going to take it the slow way. So had to back it up by doing just a regular dino skip, which just kind of gets you up
really
to the top
hard.
of the kingdom a little bit
There's
faster.
just a little pixel on the wall that you can
This is something I think that's been
stand
known
on
since
top
like the
of,
very
and it
beginning.
allows you to kind of scale
That
it.
dino and that trampoline to skip the intended 2D area in the back of the kingdom. I think you maybe mean the other way around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm also here
Now,
to
that
ruin
makes me
everyone's
wonder,
day.
does
So
it
if
have
you
a
look at the
multi-moon?
multi-moon on
Play it later on.
this giant rabbit's
have a
necklace,
necklace?
it's like kind of a yellow
Yeah,
color,
I really don't know.
but
So yeah,
After the
like
fight, it's suddenly
Kerbis
gonna
said,
be like a
Cascade's
darker
kind of
shade of
the... We're still in the tutorial, the baby steps.
yeah, it gets lighter.
It's teaching you about the Odyssey, and the Odyssey is going to be the way that we travel around.
I don't think so. I don't think
It's
so.
a little rusty right now, so that's what the power-up is all about. And you can see that in the top left corner, that's our moon count. We need to get all the hollowed circles filled in. I don't know if this is going to work. I think I'm a little too far left. Yeah, I was a little too far left, but that's okay. So,
Yeah.
what I tried to do there, you can actually use moon spawning in to clip through surfaces, through ceilings, through walls. I was just a little bit off my positioning, so I didn't clip through the ceiling there, but that's not the only moon clip that I'm going to try and go for in this run, so hopefully we're able to nail it down. But
Yeah, you'll see it in Wooded Kingdom for around an 8-second time save, and you'll see it in Snow for a pretty important clip, as you'll see.
yep, that's right. And like I said, just because we're completing the story doesn't necessarily mean this run is void of tricks. Like, I think any percent gets a lot of the attention, 'cause it's the fastest one, but that doesn't mean that this category is without its own tricks. In fact, I would say it's probably trick heavier. Trying to achieve the sequence breaks in this game is what kind of makes this category the flashiest one, in my opinion. And Sand Kingdom is where the sequence breaks really start to begin.
Yeah, so in Sand Kingdom, normally what you're supposed to do is, like, as this cutscene kind of shows, there's a glowing light on top of that tower. There's a moon up there. That's supposed to be the first story moon you collect. You climb through a little 2D section up the tower and collect that moon. And then it wants you to go over to a little island where you can collect some moon shards, and that gives you another moon, and also opens up the door to the pyramid at the back of the kingdom. But in this category, we're going to skip both of those, and Danger's is going to go straight to the pyramid pretty much, collecting a few moons along the way, because you still need a certain number to exit the kingdom at the end. But you'll get to see what he does instead.
Yep. And it's been known about for a long time that you can just skip into the pyramid. But a recently discovered trick is a little bit faster. I'm going to see if I can get it here. All right, I got the capture warp. That's good. That's a flashy little trick. Basically, putting Cappy in a place where you can warp yourself out of a situation after completing a task. So I grabbed the moon, and then I was on my way through a bullet bill, like, right away. We're going to come up the side of the pyramid like this. Might take a couple tries.
Yeah, this is a very recently discovered thing, and it's still incredibly difficult. I think maybe only 2 or 3 people even attempt this in runs.
All right, so what I was afraid of happening did happen. So we clipped into the corner, as you can see, but we fell all the way down. So I'm going to give it one more try before I take it away.
Yeah.
We do have just a couple minutes of extra leeway, so not too worried.
On a successful attempt, we try and get a setup where Mario bounces. Oh, as you see there, yeah, Mario bounces on Cappy, so he's able to line himself up in the out of bounds. No.
Oh, classic. I got a value dive. So, unfortunately, Cappy didn't respond the way that I wanted to, so we're going to have to just flip into this door instead. I guess you guys are going to get to see the interior of the pyramid instead.
And funnily enough, there was a little Cappy text box that came up there when you approach that wall and try to like run through it, or if you bonk into it or something. Cappy will say something along the lines of, "I don't think you can brute force your way in there."
Yeah.
Well, challenge accepted.
I beg to differ, Cappy. So yeah, the reason that the IP skip that we call it, the jumping up on the side of the pyramid and clipping through the corner, the reason that that's so valuable is because it skips all of this interior part. So we don't have to jump over the Goombas in this 2D section. We don't have to run through this area at all. It gets us right up to the boss fight immediately and saves about 40 seconds if you get it on a first try. But like we said, it's really, really hard to do. We're basically doing something called a ledge clip. And ledge clips work because like every single place that a wall meets a wall or a floor meets a wall, anywhere there's a corner in surfaces, game has, they're not perfect, let's say that. They're not perfect. So you can actually, if you hit them at exactly the right angle, you can just kind of go through them. So corner clips happen everywhere. There's actually a couple other places that we can use them as like heck in other categories, but that's the idea, is that we're abusing the fact that you can just kind of slip through the cracks in a corner to progress through the kingdom a little bit faster.
And also, we've got Harriet here, who Dangers is beating up. So the bunny that you saw in Cascade Kingdom and Harriet, and there's 3 other rabbits. They are all part of Bowser's wedding planning team. And they also just like have bombs and all kinds of crazy things that they are going to try to beat up Mario with, but they don't stand a chance.
Nope. The one thing I do like about the brutal fights, the rabbit mini fights, is that they do have some sort of kind of sequence break attached to them. A lot of the other bosses in this game don't really have any way of speeding them up any more than intended mechanics. So the mini brutals, they all do have some sort of like, get Harriet's bombs back into her face, then the fight continues kind of thing. So we do abuse those as speedrunners, of course. Now,
earlier you saw Dangers pop out of the bullet bill capture he was riding in and grab a checkpoint and then go back into the bullet bill capture. That is just specifically so he can warp back closer to his gold point
that's right.
After collecting the multi-moon, because multi-moons always spawn you way back at the Odyssey at the beginning of the kingdom.
Yeah, which is not very handy for us considering we need to continue doing the story. So the checkpoint helped us kind of skip over the kingdom. Now, the one thing I really like about this game is the captures, because, you know, you're not just Mario in this game, right? You're not just Mario with a magical hat that you can throw around. You're also all of these things that you can turn into. And some of them have some very interesting mechanics, and like you can use them in really clever ways to be able to maneuver around the stage and get moons really fast. Like you saw there, we kind of juggled the bullet bills around a little bit. And yeah, so you can tell that we're kind of not making a beeline for the story, and that's just because we're trying to collect some fast moons along the way. We still always have to be kind of keeping an eye on how many moons we need to leave the kingdom. And in this kingdom, it's 16. So we're going to get the fastest moons that aren't story moons as well along the way.
Yeah, Sand is one of the bigger kingdoms. You need anywhere from like 5 in Cascade Kingdom to 20 in Metro, just depending on the size of the kingdom.
We have time for a couple donations, I think.
I got you covered. We've got $20 from Anonymous, who says, "Awesome to see Super Mario Odyssey. I wonder what color Danger's hair is."
I get that question a lot, actually. It's supposed to be purple, but as I'm sure all of you can relate, I'm definitely due for a haircut now. So it's starting to fade back into the blonde underneath.
We've got $25 from Dan Cat, $300,000 hype, and for my daughter, save the animals. We are right now we are only about $7,000 away from hitting 300K during Mario Odyssey.
That'd be pretty hype. We're really close. All right. So, Lore Master Kerbis, who's this?
So this is Nuclotech, and he is presumably the master jeweler of the Sand Kingdom. So the thing Bowser is trying to steal from here, or has already stolen from here, is a ring for Peach. He needs a fancy 24-karat gold ring, and yeah, Nuclotech, I don't know if he like made the ring or what's going on here, if he's just the loyal protector of the ring, but
The Guardian, perhaps, maybe, yeah.
I mean, he's not doing a very good job.
To be fair, none of the kingdoms do a very good job protecting from Bowser.
Yeah, you just gotta punch him in the face a few times and he explodes.
The classic hands and face boss that Nintendo really loves to overuse. Of course, with the capture gimmick thrown in there. So the only thing that we can really do to speed up that fight, for some reason, rolling in between the fists and getting them behind you as fast as you can speeds up each of the phases by about a second. So that's why we're going out there. It's not just flashy stuff. It actually does serve a speed purpose. But aside from that, that boss is done. So
Another cool thing about this game is that after you beat it, all of the stuff that Bowser stole goes back to its respective kingdom. Like in this case, you can go back to the Sand Kingdom into that underground area, and there will be the ring sitting in its giant pedestal. And there's even like, you can ground pound the top of it and it gives you a moon.
yep, and the same goes for all of the kingdoms. I don't think there is anything, well, is there anything from Cap and Cascade that he steals? I don't think there is.
No, there isn't.
I don't think so.
Just what it is, yeah. All right, so in my opinion, Sand is probably the scariest kingdom in the run just because of the IP skip that has been recently discovered. It always kind of was because you either had to clip into the pyramid one way or another, right? But that IP skip definitely is a run killer for me. Definitely is the pit stop. Luckily, it's within the first 10 minutes of the run, so it's a pretty easy one to try and risk, I guess. So we get a little bit of a break coming to Lake Kingdom.
Yeah, Lake Kingdom's pretty small. There's only one story thing to do here, and that's just fight another one of the Brutals. So pretty much Danger's just gonna collect some super fast moons and go straight to that fight.
Yeah, this one's a pretty straightforward kingdom. Nothing too flashy really happens here. Oh, we got to make sure we get around the corner, though. The corner is probably the hardest thing in the entire Lake Kingdom there. Funny enough, that's actually another place that you can corner clip like we were talking about before, but it just doesn't have a fast purpose in this kingdom without doing some like ridiculous stuff. So.
And the thing Bowser's trying to steal from the Lake Kingdom is a dress.
Yes.
In that little bubble town you can see in the background. There's you can kind of see it from that far away if you know what you're looking for, but there's a wireframe thing that holds a dress and it is missing.
Yeah, like a stand for it. And then, yeah, up to Rango, and he's the third of the Brutals that you kind of encounter. And same thing, he's got a mechanic where he throws his hat out at you, and if you stun the hat, it spawns one of those flower pads that are all over the kingdom, and then you're supposed to jump on his head, but, you know, we don't got time for that, so finish him off nice and easy.
Yeah, once you bounce on his head, you can just ground pound straight through him because he loses all tangibility for a couple seconds.
Which is really handy. I don't know how this fight would go if we didn't have that.
It would probably still be just as fast, I think. It would just be a lot more annoying.
Yeah, probably be a lot of like back and forth backflipping and stuff. And then we go to Wooded. And Wooded is infamous for being kind of a scary kingdom, very vertical kingdom. Lots of like, you have to be very tight on your platforming because you can lose a lot of time if you're not. So, but while we're waiting to get there, we have some time for some donations, I think.
Got you covered. We've got $30 from Thomas. Super Mario Odyssey is so good. This wasn't the way I played it, though. $500 from Jack and KC. Doing our part to help. Thank you guys so much for that donation. $35 from Eriko. I'm watching this while setting up my online classroom for the week. Save the animals. $250 donation from Andrew. Always love watching GDQ when it comes around. Thanks for supporting a great cause.
All right, so Wooded Kingdom is actually a place where we're gonna. Oh, the bunny decided to debate me there. Wood is another place where we're gonna try and do one of those moon clips that we were talking about in Cascade. Maybe Lucid, you can kind of explain what moon clips are like, how they work, what they're all about.
Yeah, so basically, when Mario backflips and Cap throws into like a wall, he kind of slips out of bounds for like a couple frames or so, and then the game realizes, hey, you're out of bounds, and then pushes you back in. But if you collect a moon during that period where he's out of bounds, the game like stops you, and then you're able to actually go through that wall as a result. So that's essentially what just happened right there.
Exactly what happened there. And we use that to our advantage. There's a nice little ledge sitting for us out of bounds that we can use. And we just use that to our advantage to be able to skip the gate that is normally there, and then another capture, which is kind of slow. So that one's, I remember when Nutclip was first discovered, when using the moon clip there was like first found out about it, just like it changed this game and really opened up a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, because that clip is useful in pretty much every category. It's most useful in any percent where it actually kind of created a really interesting route for Wooded Kingdom, but in every other category, you basically just use it to skip the gate like Dangers did there. Saves a few seconds.
And this is what we call Flower Road Skip. And as flashy as it is, it doesn't save as much time as it looks like it does. The intended way to get across there is to hit one of these P switches that you see and make a flower road appear. Now this actually also a little bit flashier than it probably saves, but we can kind of skip going into the tower in another flower road by just kind of jumping up to the top like that. Probably one of the coolest things about this game, I think it's probably my favorite 3D Mario just because you have a lot of diversity with Cappy being in your possession too. Like the height that you can gain and the tricks that you can do are all just so, they feel so smooth, and it doesn't feel like it's a crutch either. Like, I think that I love Sunshine as a game, but I think that one of the biggest complaints is that the hover nozzle is kind of like a crutch. Like, if you miss a jump, you just start hovering and you've made the jump. It doesn't feel like that in Odyssey. It feels like a genuine tool to help you achieve things that you might not be able to before. And that was Spewart, by the way. We kind of glazed over that one. It was a really hard fight, I guarantee it.
Yeah, World Peace is interesting because there's so many required moons you have to collect in a lot of these kingdoms that there's like a lot of fast ones you just run right past and you don't even need. So there were two moons that are really fast inside that tower that he skipped. But it's just, you get so many fast moons elsewhere that avoiding that tower completely is...
So now, because it spits you back out at the Odyssey, and this is one of the kingdoms that doesn't really have very reliable shortcuts with checkpoints, we do have to kind of naturally make our way up the kingdom. I say naturally, but we kind of like jumped up a giant rock wall, and now we're using rocket flowers and taking out tanks and stuff. So probably a little bit faster than most would traverse this wall, but we do have to get up to the top of the kingdom.
It kind of works out anyways, because unlike Sand Kingdom where you're going to the same area twice, you kind of split off into two different directions on your two different segments of Wooded Kingdom.
A little target practice. You'll also notice the story moons have like these little platforms. That kind of just signifies that it's where you're supposed to be going, I guess. And into Torque Drift. Now, Torque Drift does have a pretty linear boss fight as well. There is only one thing that you can do to speed it up, and it has everything to do with the capture associated with it. You've been noticing these guys, they're called uproots. I call them speedy nut boys, but they're more like onions, I think. They look more like a garlic clove or something.
Yeah, and the thing that Bowser's trying to steal from this kingdom is the flowers. And this Forkdrift here is kind of like a machine to suck up the flowers and transport them to Bowser.
And as Danger's kind of foreshadowed with his name, there's some weird properties with the thing that actually, you know, spits out the uproots. For some reason, when you like walk on them or jump off them in a certain way, you can get some pretty weird results. One of them is that you don't take any sort of like recoil when landing from a jump, and one just makes him jump like insanely fast. So
get like twice the distance on his jumps, and for some reason. It all has to do with like the ledges or like hills and inclines and stuff, and this little spawning platform has both of those things. So if you jump on it in a certain set of ways, you'll notice that at the beginning of the fight, my speedy nut boy, every time he hit the ground, he kind of like was ajarred for a bit, and he also didn't jump nearly as far as he is now, and that's all just through manipulation. So getting around this stage a little bit faster just by using those manipulations. But otherwise, this fight is pretty linear. You're just kind of waiting for the lasers and then hitting the little blue glowing orbs. And that's it. That's Wooded Kingdom. I would say that Wooded Kingdom is it's still part of the break, in my opinion. I feel like this kingdom's not that scary in this category as it is in some other ones. The big looming thing about this kingdom is that the Deep Woods hangs underneath you for a lot of it. And the Deep Woods is actually a place that I found completely by accident in my casual playthrough. I didn't really understand what was going on. I thought I was supposed to die by falling off the cliff, but I ended up in this place with a scary dinosaur, and it was really dark, and my compass was gone. So you try to avoid going into the Deep Woods because getting out is a really big hassle. But we avoided that today, so...
Yeah, the most dangerous part is actually doing the out-of-bounds gate skip, because if he dives ever so slightly in the wrong direction or at the wrong timing, he's guaranteed a trip to the Deep Woods, pretty much.
That's right. Hanging kind of underneath all of the out-of-bounds area, for the most part, is the Deep Woods. So don't want to go in there. Now, if you're playing this game casually, you know that the game tries to lead you to Metro Kingdom, but the Bowser stops you and wants to have a little showdown in Cloud Kingdom first. So we got to take care of that. And you don't really capture his hat, but you do take advantage of it by just kind of being in its presence. So that's what we do. We like purposefully get right up in Bowser's face in all of these phases, and with a well-timed backflip and a cap throw, we can kind of just stop the hat right where it is. That was not very well-timed, but that's okay. This is usually what you have to do. You have to chase him down like this. And you can just do that 3 times and the fight is over. Have we talked about Chinese at all? Have we talked about why the game is in a different language? I don't think so.
I don't think so, no.
But it's... Thankfully, in this game, you can just change your language in the game settings. It's super easy, so there's no, like, other version you have to buy.
That's
but,
right.
Yeah, we actually had been running on Japanese for the entire life of this game until maybe a few weeks ago, a month ago or something. Somebody actually character counted all of the text boxes in any percent for both Japanese and Chinese, and found that Chinese is a couple seconds faster.
Mm-hmm.
And that holds true for, we think, every category.
And we all thought it was Japanese for the longest time.
And you do beat Bowser, but in that cutscene that Danger skipped, you see Bowser throwing a temper tantrum and destroying the Odyssey, knocking it down to this deserted island, the Lost Kingdom.
Now, there's a reason that I'm going this particular direction in the Lost Kingdom as well. Maybe Lucid, can you explain what there's not really a boss here, but there is something else that yeah. That's right. And then you actually saw Klepto at the top of that staircase up there. If we just kind of like enter his general area, we trick him into thinking he has Cappy, so we are able to access the rest of the kingdom again, even though we have Cappy and everything's fine. It is. There's a lot of things in this kingdom that actually take Cappy away from you. Once you get Cappy back from Klepto, there's the tripedals. You actually saw me do a triple jump over to that golden cage. I had to do all of that without Cappy, which can be kind of scary. But we made it happen. We made it work. Yeah, the name World Peace is kind of misleading in this kingdom, because you would think, well, you know, you're saving the world, you defeat the ugly, scary boss at the beginning. That's, you know, this kingdom's saved, right? But not really. For some reason, Pauline needs to throw a festival in your honor before you can leave and call it World Peace. So that's what we have to do. And while we're making our way up to the Robo-Brutal, the Mecha Wiggler, we have a little bit of time for some donations, I think.
Okie dokie. We've got $20 from Willow the Whisper. Dangerous is one of my favorite speedrunners of all time. I'm so happy that we met the bonus game incentive for Odyssey. Good luck on the run. I'll be cheering you on from here.
Thanks, Willow.
$25 from Daxon. Never seen an Odyssey speedrun before. Hope it's a good one. Here's to level 1 Sephiroth, which we are still over $70,000 away from meeting that, but I know that you guys can do it. We've got over 40,000 people watching, almost 40,000 people watching right now. If you all got just a little donation in, we can hit that final incentive.
So traversing City Hall, obviously probably not the way that most people have ever done it, but we can just use that series of jumping poles to get up to the top really fast, and a long jump that really fights with the camera to get all the way up to the top really fast. And then this is the Mecha Wiggler fight, and there are a lot of bosses in this category. It could almost be classified as like an all bosses category, but I don't like this one. This one's probably my least favorite, and it's in every category. And the reason for that is just because in order to collect any more moons in Metro, you need to achieve the daylight. You need to get to the next phase. So this is an obstacle in just about every category you need to do. This boss is particularly scary because the hitboxes sometimes don't behave the way that you want. The mechanics of this fight are that, like, if you shoot one of the glowing orbs on his body, it also breaks the 2 orbs next to them. So it can be taken down as little as 6 shots. But sometimes you get patterns where he overlaps himself. That actually was a pretty good pattern, I'm not going to lie. He has a pattern where he like overlaps himself, and when those happen, sometimes the hitboxes kind of stack on top of each other and make it really hard to get the orbs going, but we made it work. Everything's fine.
Yeah, we're pretty spoiled with this game. This isn't like Super Mario Bros. 3 where there's a ton of RNG all over the place.
Yeah.
Just like the pattern of the Wiggler is probably the most luck-based thing in this run. And it's only a difference of a few seconds probably at most.
Yeah. You can get optimal patterns where like he comes across the bottom as soon as he's like vulnerable, and those are the best ones. And then you can get patterns, like I said, that cross over themselves a bunch of times. And the idea is to get a 2 cycle. If you take too long hitting all the glowing orbs, he'll go back in the wall and you'll have to wait. But All right, so Day Metro is full of all sorts of tricks. This is actually one of my favorite kingdoms to run in this category. So, I feel like I should probably have somebody explain what the heck just happened there. It's always so funny to me. Every time this game gets featured at GDQ, like, the different poses and postures people take to do that trick.
Yeah, so basically, the scooter there that Dangers was just on has some hidden motion controls that they don't tell you about, and that is basically if you turn the controller left, the scooter will kind of tilt a little bit to the left, and same thing with the right. So what you can actually do there is drive by that cage, which you're usually supposed to get by capturing the RC car guy and driving the car into the cage. You can actually use those hidden motion controls and turn your controller around, and Mario's hitbox will actually hit the moon, basically, and you can get it without ever having to capture the RC car guy.
Exactly. Skips the capture, skips, like, I was never very good at controlling RC cars, and this game kind of has, like, a similar mechanic to that, so you can just avoid that entirely. So Pauline's quest for us is to start putting a festival together in our own honor, which I always thought was kind of backhanded, but that's okay. Pauline, she does what she wants. The first order of business is to gather a band, and there's 4 band members, so we need to go and gather them all up. And you can see the band is starting to grow behind her as we do this. And they're just kind of sprawled out among the city, just about everywhere, so...
That's the canonical reason why you hear music playing in the background of everywhere you go. There's just strategically placed musicians everywhere in the world of Mario.
We're going to use that warp. The checkpoints are really useful because they let us kind of traverse the kingdoms a lot easier, and this is another one of those times. Do some rooftop hopping. You can see that the trumpeter is actually...
how do you even get up on the roof? I don't really know, but we're not going to worry about it.
I'm going to guess he does it the same way we do. Just like this. We can hope so, anyway. I can't think of any other reason.
His trumpet is secretly another monitor.
There you go. All right, so now that we've gathered the band, the next thing we need to do that Pauline refused to tell us about is the fact that her power system, her power supply is actually all gunked up by a couple of piranha plants. So we need to go take care of that, which are in these sewers here. Now I'm going to go for a roll cancel clip that everybody tells me I probably shouldn't, but, it's GDQ. I want to showcase some stuff, so see if we can get it. Hey, would you look at that?
Wow.
Second try. Okay.
So until like last week, the world record didn't have that clip in it.
Yeah, but it was okay. So there have been roll cancel clips in this game for a really long time. We had to do one to get into the pyramid earlier, but the cues for them and the way that they work is always a different scenario because it relies on like a little slope next to a wall. And using pipes does work. We've always known that to be the case, but it has always been like probably the hardest way to get into a wall. And so for the most part, we just have not wanted to touch this one. It saves us about 16 seconds, but we just not wanted to touch it because we just couldn't figure out the trick.
They've tried to patch some of those clips out in some of the updates to the game. So before the 1.2 update, that clip was actually like fairly reasonable. It was still kind of difficult, but it was reasonable to do in runs. But after the 1.2 update, they made it a lot harder. And until now, the 1.2 update was 2 years ago at this point. Until now, nobody's really tried to implement that clip into runs. Because it relatively, compared to the other roll cancel clips, it doesn't save as much time.
Yeah, because, I mean, clipping into the inverted pyramid through the door, that skipped 2 story moons, which saved like 2 minutes, and there's another one coming up in snow that I might not have to do. You'll kind of see as we get there. But that one also skipped story elements and saved another 2 minutes, so those ones were kind of important, whereas this one only skips going through like one more room and saves about 15 seconds. So it was something that we didn't really touch, but it's definitely getting to the point in this category where these time saves can definitely make a difference if you can figure them out. And now this is the festival. This is probably like the biggest 2D chunk in the game. There's a way to do this damageless, but I was a little slow, so I'm gonna just have to take some damage from the barrels. But
Taking damage here isn't such a big deal because normally what happens when you collect a moon is there will be like an animation that plays of Mario's health refilling, but if you collect a multi-moon, that doesn't happen. Like through the cutscene of the multi-moon, you just automatically get full health at the end of it.
that's right.
With no time wasted.
So in this case, because we're grabbing the multi-moon at the end, that's all we got to do. So and then off to Snow Kingdom. Now, the Snow and Seaside, there's another like fork in the road like you saw earlier with Wooded and Lake. And because we don't have to revisit any of the kingdoms, it doesn't matter what order we choose them in. So I'm just going to mash through and go to Snow first. But while we're transitioning, I think we got some time for donations if we got any.
We've got a lot. We've actually got a donation train going on thanks to Twitch.
Ooh, let's
chat.
go.
We've got $50 from Kitty Cat, $5 Sephiroth donation train. Choo choo. $5 from the Lycan Trader, $5 hype train. Let's go. $10 from Jackie Makes Comics. I don't know much about Sephiroth, but I do know that it's extremely cool to help others whenever possible. Please put my $10 toward the Kingdom Hearts 2 final incentive mix. We have made quite a lot of headway on that. Right now, we are still just around $70,000 away.
All right. Now, Snow is my favorite kingdom in this entire run. Smile. So we were talking about how there were two kingdoms that you could sequence break in. This is one of them, and the way that the way that this kingdom is laid out is that Bowser's already come here and stolen what he wants to, but he's left a nasty little surprise for these guys in their little hometown. So what we need to do is we need to go down each of the hallways up ahead into 4 puzzle rooms to gather story moons, so that we can open up the barriers and give the Bound Bull or the Shivarians back their Bound Bull. Or we can just clip through this wall like this and around the corner and kind of just enter the hallway from this side.
Yeah,
obviously saves a lot of time.
Exactly the same mechanic as what he was trying to do in Cascade Kingdom with the chest moon clipping through the ceiling that Lucid explained. And that is a one-try only trick, obviously, because if you collect the moon, you can't collect it again. But there's some other roll cancel clips that you can do throughout Snow Kingdom that can also let you get down to the same area. They're just a little slower.
Yeah. It just so happens that that's like the quickest way to do it because you need that moon already anyways. So if you can set up the trick in a way that you clip through the wall, saves you a lot of time. But there are backups, thankfully. It would probably not be a very fun category if it was like you get this one chance to get into the into the sequence break or else your run's over. So thank goodness for that, at least. But I got that on the first try, so no big deal. And this is the Bound Bull. These guys are the Shivarians. I like to call them the Snoodles. Usually I have a fun little game. You can try and guess the exact time that I'm going to get in the race. I don't know if I'm going to be able to... There's a lot of people here, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to notice in the chat. But if you guess it exactly right, I'd be willing to gift a sub to GDQ for you, I think, if you get it right. Maybe if the host has an extra second to just kind of peek through the chat and see if anybody gets it right, I can definitely...
Sure, I'm looking.
I can definitely show some love to anybody who gets it right.
We can try to keep our eyes on it as well.
I'd advise guessing a 52. That's usually what a pretty solid Bound Bull time is. You can't get lower, but 52 is usually what's pretty solid. Pretty
average, yeah. Pretty standard for like runners. And we were right, 52-16 final time.
It might take a second. There were a lot of guesses.
There were. Whatever one was the first one, if that helps, you can like scroll to the beginning.
I think my chat scrolled too much for me to even see the first guesses.
Dude, it's so fast. I'm just watching it scroll right now. You guys are insane.
Oh yeah, and the thing Bowser stole from here is a cake, a wedding cake. Normally the cake is supposed to be the prize, I think, for winning the Bound Bowl.
I see one from Marv02495216.
All right, I can do that. I'll hit them up when
It
we're
might have
finished
been
now.
afterwards, but you know what? I saw it first, so he gets it.
The host is calling it. That's what matters. That's what matters. So you'll notice that Snow Kingdom, of course, like we said, we have to collect enough moons to leave still. But there were a lot of really slow moons in this kingdom, so we skipped all the slow ones. But we only got 6. To leave, we need 10. So we just need to kind of do some cleanup in this kingdom before we leave. And it just so happens that when we achieve world peace, the blizzard outside stops and gives us a new pool of moons to kind of grab from. So we're going to do that while we're out here.
Yeah, that's the thing we haven't kind of mentioned yet. Every time you go to a kingdom, there aren't that many moons that are available right away, most of the time. But every time you complete a major story objective, usually it's every time you collect a multi-moon, more moons spawn in that are available to be collected. And then also when you come back in the post-game, there's more.
And just a little hat skip and a jump across that way. That's a trick we call snow dram. Don't ask why everything's called dram in this game, but just a little fancy trick. You're not actually supposed to be able to get up there until you've arrived at the post game, so...
Yeah, there's actually a category we have where it's collecting every moon available before the post game. And even though you technically are physically able to get that moon, it's not included because that's not even intended to be able to be collected until you beat the game.
That's right. But lucky for us, do a little trick jump from the top of the Odyssey and you just barely are able to reach it, so makes it pretty fast. And then off to Seaside. Seaside, the kingdom itself is pretty easy. We need 10 moons here, and there's no sequence breaks, which means that we're going to be getting 7 moons that are story moons. The other 3 are just kind of in our way, which makes it pretty much just a lap around the kingdom, collecting those moons. But it's home to probably my favorite boss fight in this entire game.
Yeah, mine as well.
All right, so the story of this kingdom here is that the boss, who, by the way, I don't actually know their name. That's not important.
Their name is Brigadier Mollusk Lancer III Dolphano Bubblaine.
Oh, right, okay, that's what it was. Yes, it was like on the tip of my tongue. They are terrorizing the town, and they're sitting on top of this nice little goblet of water in the middle, sparkly water. So we need to break all of these seals to shoot him with the corks that are blocking the way, and then he'll come and confront us. And yeah, one of my favorite boss fights, mainly because of his name. His name is amazing. Another reason is just because of... I've been kind of saying that a lot of the boss fights are really linear. This is an example of that as well, but we get to break him in a pretty entertaining way, so you guys will see what I mean when we get to it. We're just going to take a quick dip under the water here. There's a couple fast moons on our way over to our next seal. Making use of all the captures too. Like I said, it's really handy that this game allows you to come up with ways to move around in much more than just Mario runs and long jumps and throws Cappy. There's a lot of different opportunities here to get around. You basically don't have to swim as Mario anywhere in this game, which is really handy.
I think this kingdom's pretty clever too, because it's like Bowser stealing sparkling water from here, and you have to uncork the fountains. You're popping that bubbly.
That's right. Bowser's almost done his like stealing spree. We're almost at the end here of all the things that he's going to be taking for his wedding.
And also, this game is amazing because most of the time, it doesn't force you to actually swim as Mario. Swimming sucks in every video game ever. You can't change my mind on that. And
unless
this game,
your main character is a fish or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can turn into a fish in this game, and that's why it's so good.
You know, I will make one exception. I think that swimming in Donkey Kong Country wasn't terrible. That is my one exception to that rule.
Yeah, it's definitely on the better end, but I'm still not a huge fan.
All right, so here he is. Here's the boy in all his glory, Brigadier Mollusk Glancer III Dolphina Blaine. And no, you can't really make that kind of stuff up. That is his name. He's got a really hot head. And so this fight, I know exactly where he's going to end up every single phase. He always stops in the same place. He's always vulnerable in the same place. So the goal is to essentially just beat him to the places he's going to show up. And it's really important that we do it on this phase, and you'll see why when we get there. Final stop is the hot spring over here, so I'm going to line myself up. And if we do it, for some reason, the game kind of gets confused, and he just clips through the hot spring. And I don't know why that happens. It's like part of the game mechanics, I guess, gets tricked because you're not supposed to be hitting him that early. So he just like takes his most direct route to the place he's supposed to be. And that's just kind of clips him through the hot spring. And it saves a lot of time because otherwise he goes all the way around. All right. And on to luncheon. Lucidity, I don't know about you, but luncheon is my favorite.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I'm only half kidding about that, actually. The truth is, like, luncheon is really pretty. And I like the way that they disguised the lava level in this game. Because every Mario game has a lava level, right? It's usually Bowser's Castle or something. But this game has a lava level, it's just disguised as something else. And, you know, that makes it scary in itself, but also just like the whole aesthetic of this kingdom is really charming to me, how it's kind of got this jungly vibe, and then you get into the town and it's a little bit more like Parisian, European kind of feel to the music. It's a really pretty place, but it's really hard to speedrun because the geometry of it is very, very awkward.
I think this might be collectively the least favorite kingdom to speedrun by like the entire Odyssey community. If you took a poll, this would be the most common answer.
Yeah. Any percent runners might say wooded, but...
Yeah, that would probably be second on the list.
Well, the first thing we're going to do, that jump is a lot harder than it actually looks. There's a lot of jumps in this game where, like, we're basically effectively using Mario's maximum height in all of his jumps and all of his dives. And if we don't get the exact maximum height out of those jumps, then sometimes we just don't make it up. That just so happens to be one of those situations. And here's Speward again, and this fight is actually like 10 times harder because the arena is a rectangular shape. So I really have to be on my guard this one.
Also, I don't remember if we mentioned it, but you're supposed to fight all of these Brutals 2 times throughout the game. Snow Kingdom, you were supposed to fight Rango in one of those 4 tunnel rooms that Dangers was talking about. At the end of it, you fight Rango. But he's like the only one of 2 bosses, I think, that gets skipped.
Yes. In this run, yeah, we only skip Rango. And I think that's the only boss fight we skip in this whole run, isn't it?
Well, Moon Cave.
Ah, yes, there's that too, true.
We've been skipping it for so long in every category that we just forget it even exists.
Alright. So, An interesting mechanic here. You're not going to really understand what I'm doing just because it looks a little bit weird, but I'm facing my camera down on purpose here. And this game it has a clever way of trying to store memory. And if something is not on camera, for the most part, it doesn't exist to the game. So that means that anything that has a cycle will not keep going on its cycle if it's off the screen. So this little hammer brother there, if I had faced my camera towards his position anytime during that sequence, then he would have probably jumped back to one of his other spots, which is not quite as fast. So there's always these little things in platforming games that you just kind of have to, like, I know that Super Mario 64 has a lot of lag reduction, but it's weird because Odyssey doesn't have very many of those spots. It usually has something to do with like trying to force a cycle to be the way that you want.
Or just getting a moon to actually be grabbable.
Yeah. Because moons fall into that rule as well. Like I said, that things don't exist if they're not on camera. Moons are in that category as well. So if you don't look at a moon before you try to grab it, sometimes you can just like dive right through it. So we're just kind of traversing our way back up to this meat plateau over here. And as you can see, just like, you know, we kind of take some of this movement for granted when you play this category a lot, but some pretty tricky platforming. We're trying to land on like just the tiniest little ledges to maneuver our way around this kingdom. And then we capture this little slab of meat and get this multi-moon for the halfway point of the kingdom. But we're not done yet.
That's a nice stew that Bowser is trying to steal for his main dish of the wedding meal.
That's right. He's got the dessert cake, he's got the bubbly, and he just wants the soup. And now I think the platforming in this kingdom really ramps up in this second half. There's a lot of things that kind of have to be really tight on, or else we end up in the lava, we end up in the Pepto-Bismol beneath us.
I definitely think that this is one of the trickiest parts of the entire run, these next like 4 minutes or so.
Yeah, I agree.
There's a lot of tricky platforming, and then you get met with what I believe is the most annoying boss fight in the entire game.
Yep.
I think that's also a pretty much universally held opinion.
Yeah, so I did say that, like, the Mecha Wiggler has some nasty hitboxes, but this boss also kind of takes the cake for that as well. No pun intended. I kind of did that by accident. We kind of just have to make our way over. And I'm doing a pretty good job of this kingdom, but like that triple jump after the timer challenge thing that I did, that triple jump is not as easy as it looks. You don't have Cappy. Anytime you put Cappy on a Scarecrow, the Scarecrow takes Cappy until the timer challenge is done. So I had to do that jump without Cappy. So I had to make sure that my speed was right, my spacing was right. It's all very tricky stuff. And now shoutouts to the Koopa freerunning community for this series of movement coming up here. If you guys don't know, Koopa freerunning is kind of like a mini game within the game that you can like race a bunch of Koopa Troopas to a certain point somewhere else in the kingdom. And this upcoming part has like a little mountain trek. You're supposed to like jump across these lava islands and then up the mountain across the way. But it was kind of discovered that you can just kind of scale the mountain from this wall over here. And suddenly we're at the top, just like that.
That's another bit of movement that gets used in a lot of categories, because there's not any moons to collect pretty much that whole like intended path you're supposed to climb.
That's right. And if you can get them, they're kind of slow, and like you want to get them on a revisit to the kingdom usually. Because again, the thing with the world peace is that, like, yeah, the story moons themselves can kind of take a long time to do, but all of the other moons, because you don't have to collect very many of them, they're all really, really fast. So if a moon doesn't take like 10 to 15 seconds to collect, it probably isn't worth it. And so this is the one main boss fight that does have like a major sequence break in it. And we can hit Cookatiel right in the booty to initiate this lava spewing phase a little bit faster. But like we said, the hitboxes are really not friendly. I kind of made that look a little bit easy. Probably the cleanest luncheon I've had in a long time.
That was like a perfect fight. Not only are the hitboxes bad, but that last phase when he's jumping up the sectioned off puke platforms, those things are so easy to just fall through the bottom of them if your jump is poorly timed.
Yup.
Really annoying.
And yeah, so now is when we give chase. This is when we give chase to Bowser. We start to head over to his own territory. He makes his way back to his own kingdom. And so we gotta go break up his wedding. He's done collecting all the things for his wedding, so we just gotta make sure he doesn't actually do that. We have some time for donations while we transition here.
Sure, we've got quite a few of them. $5 from Syracuse BP. My wife and I beat Mario Odyssey together. Took us way longer than it does for Dangers. Shout out to Jess and all the frontline workers fighting the virus. And thank you to all the GDQ volunteers for entertaining us during these tough times. We got $5 from Lady Capulet, who just says, Moon Get.
Yeah. It's a shame.
$50. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, as I said, it's just a shame that like when we used to play in Japanese, they used to actually have like English text for the Moon Get, so you used to be able to read that along, but the Chinese, they actually do switch to the local language. But yeah, this fight here, I'm actually going to let you go on a donation reading spree because this fight here, while it's really flashy and we got this really scary dragon in our face, it isn't really that exciting. We kind of just have to wait for all the phases to finish. So
Can I just ruin people's days real quick?
yes.
Everyone calls this the Dark Souls dragon, but you will now forever see it as the dragon from Shrek. Thank you, that's all.
This has been a public service announcement. All right. Yeah, we definitely have some time for some donations.
I'm on it. We've still got that $5 train coming in for that Sephiroth incentive for Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix. We've got $5 from Boop Snoot, who says, $5 train. $30 from Good Old Pole. Loving the Odyssey speedrun. Here's to the level 1 Sephiroth incentive. $5 from Lionhead Nurgle. Let's ride this train. Hype!
Hype?
$5 from Moepentropin. I probably butchered that, I'm so sorry. $5 hype train, choo-choo. Greetings from Switzerland. $50 from Astro149. Sephiroth on level 1, let's go! $50 from Enzyme Shiro Amada. We can get through this together. $5 from Anonymous. Sure, Sephiroth, may as well. I appreciate the commitment.
Yeah. Hey, it still counts for something.
Exactly. $25 from Ashen Toph. We support saving people and animals. Thanks to everyone who made this a great weekend.
You know, somebody from the last run made a very good point. You know, if you want to save the frames, you can save the frames in any speedrun world record attempts of that game that you want. Only at GDQ do you get the chance to save the animals. Do the right thing, chat. Do the right thing.
Kill them.
Kill.
Oh my gosh, I'm being I'm being betrayed by my own couch. I can't believe this.
Well, right now, Save is in the lead, $5,302 to $2,424. So if actually all of you guys donating put all of your money towards the Sephiroth incentive, then Save would win as it should.
There you go. See? You heard it here first. All right. So, that little fight out of the way, and really it was just kind of damage boosting and waiting for the swords to be pulled in time. Not a whole lot that we can really do to make that fight any faster. We just have to wait. Now we finally get to Bowser's Kingdom, and this kingdom is kind of like a culmination of all the platforming that you're supposed to have learned up to this point. There's definitely some flashy tricks in this run, and you're going to see a couple of them kind of resurface using Cappy to capture warp like we have in the past. That's going to be pretty prominent in this kingdom as well. And just some really flashy platforming, especially in this second story moon. Not this one here, but the next one has some of the best movement in my opinion. Probably one of my favorite movement sections of this entire.
And Bowser's Kingdom is almost entirely story moons. There's no little dotted lines, dotted circles in the corner to show you how many moons you need. Those don't show up until after you already finish all the story objectives, but you do need 8 to leave the kingdom. 6 of them will come from story moons.
That's right. And the reason they don't do that is because the game, plot armor, basically. The game is trying to say, this is the last place you're going to go. This is where the wedding's happening. The game's coming to an end. Or it's not. So because we know that we need some more moons to leave, it's fine. So we can just pick up a couple extras while we're on our way there. All right. That jump is always really scary. It's very easy to bonk there, but we made it up. We're all good. Now, this is one of those weird instances, like we don't see moon shards very often in speedruns because they're kind of slow to collect all 5 of them to make one moon spawn, but this is a story moon again, so we have to.
Yeah, even the 2 other times they exist as story moons, they're skippable.
Yep, it's true. In the 2 kingdoms that we did skip, which was sand and snow, so one of the moons that we're going to get that isn't a story moon is right here. And like I said, we're going to use that capture warp strategy. We're throwing Cappy back towards the camera. Luckily, this is one of those situations that it doesn't need to be on camera for it to work, which is really handy for us. And then we re-encounter some of the Brutals up here.
You're also a sinner for going Harriet first.
That's what you say.
Okay, Kerbis. All right, Harriet first is clearly the superior choice.
Harriet first gang.
You can do these 2 fights in either order, and it's a pretty big point of contention.
Yeah, mostly just for the memes. But it's about as old as the game is as a speed game, just to say which of the Brutals is better fought first.
But I'm here to represent for Topper First Gang. Don't worry, everyone.
This is why I picked my couch. I needed equal distribution of representation for these Brutals. So. And then Topper. So we haven't seen Topper since the very beginning of the game. The only real difference here is that he has more hats.
Yeah, he dug deep in the closet, pulled some more out.
Yep. He's got that, classic character trope where he's just got 100 in his closet, and usually you only see one. You're only usually wearing one outfit at a time, but he decided to grab all of them at the same time. So. But he does have a little sequence break. If you knock off 2 of the hats in quick succession, then he does his spin attack right away, so we're able to jump on him during that and finish it off nice and easy.
And also, it should be noted that some of these, extra areas that you have to get to, they look like you might be able to get to them without spawning the bridge, but even if it were possible, it's been confirmed that you cannot progress the story unless you collect each individual story moon in this kingdom, which is not always the case, obviously, because we've been skipping story moons occasionally.
Yeah, it is weird that there's that distinction, though. It's weird that they do allow it in some places but not in others.
Yeah, in some spots, if you skip a story moon and then go back for it later, it's totally fine. It'll just collect the moon like normal, but with the old first moon skip that we had in version 1.0 of the game, if you tried to collect that moon after beating the Brutal in Cascade Kingdom, the game would just crash.
Yep.
They were 50% of the way to preventing sequence breaks, and then they just decided to give up, I guess. I don't know.
All right. So coming up here, Bowser is here. We approach him. We skip the cutscene, but he sends his mega brutal on us instead of actually fighting us himself. This boss is probably one of my favorites because it's basically just platforming in disguise, and the intended way to do this boss fight is not anywhere close to the way that I'm doing it right now. You're supposed to use those birds that poke the walls to kind of climb up his leg and shoot bombs at his leg so that he's stunned, so that you can come and hit all of the bubbles. But with some really careful and meticulous platforming, we can kind of just stay up the entire time. I'm going to try something called Harriet Third, which means getting this side bubble basically in midair. And we got it, no problem. I actually tried to fight this boss like the casual way the other day, because my chat had swapped all my inputs around, so I had no choice. Like, I definitely couldn't play the game normally. And it was so jarring to me how slow this fight is if you don't do the fast stuff. If you actually have to use the bird and poke the bombs at the legs and stuff, it's so slow compared to this. We definitely have saved, like, it's probably close to like 2 minutes just from this fight.
Even better thing about this fight is there's a bunch of like intermediate strats that you can do. Like what you did is the optimal way, and then there's the way of just using the bird for the whole thing. But there's like 3 or 4 in between strats that if you're just starting out with this game, you can still do this fight pretty fast without too much struggle.
Yeah, certainly. All right. So this was all just a bait, like I said. Bowser led us here into his trap so that we could get stomped by the Mecha Brutal. But we defeated them, so we have to give chase to where the wedding is actually happening, which is the moon. We filled the Odyssey. 124 moons is like the bare minimum amount of moons that you need. And even in an 80% speedrun, that's how many you collect. It's just a matter of where those moons come from. And in this category, because we're trying to save the world while we're kind of on our way, it's important that those story moons factor into those as well. So now, I feel like every time I showcase this game, I don't do enough justice explaining the Moon Kingdom, because the Moon Kingdom should be a lot bigger and longer than it is. But we do something that we've been doing ever since we first had this game released that kind of cuts this kingdom down in like half almost. This kingdom actually has what I call like the victory road of Super Mario Odyssey. There's that cave. I don't know if you can see it in the corner there, up ahead. And the game wants you to go in there, and there's like this lava cavern. There's no moon gravity in there. There's a bunch of like scary stuff trying to kill you, and even like a refight of a boss. The Madam Brutal that we fought in Cascade lives in this cave and like tries to fight you again. And same thing, there's more hats and everything that you have to deal with. But instead, we can just come around the back. Wall jump in a couple of really specific places. And we're up. And that saves about 3 minutes.
And poor Madam Brutal, even in categories like All Moons, where you have to go into the cave to collect some stuff, you still do not fight her, because it's faster to collect what you need to collect, warp out of the cave, and still do moon skip.
Yep. Yeah, there's actually no reason to do that fight at all. She doesn't give you a moon. Doesn't have any purple coins hiding behind her. There's no story lock on her at all. There's literally no reason to fight Madame Brutal at all. So.
And this Bowser fight is pretty much exactly the same as the one in Cloud Kingdom, except Bowser spins around a couple more times and he spits fire at you.
Yes. And I would actually say that this fight is easier because of the fire, because in between phases you have a lot more time to get up to where he's standing so that you can set up your backflips a lot easier.
And there's no manipulating which side he jumps to or anything like that.
That's right. Yeah. And you might think that the fire is kind of scary. I mean, it looks pretty intimidating, but really it's just a ground scan. And if I time a roll at the right time, I can just hop over it. All right. As you can see, swiping just a couple more times in the first fight, but nothing too hard to deal with. And for some reason, beating up Bowser initiates the moon to start falling apart, so we gotta escape as quickly as we can. And this honestly was like the most satisfying part of my casual playthrough, is like coming to the realization that the game wasn't over after we beat Bowser, so we probably have to capture Bowser and do something. I was so stoked.
But yeah, Dangerous just has a short 2D section, and he's got to break some rocks, and then he'll be onto the pillar room, which is the final section of the game. Basically, there's just four pillars that need to be hit 5 times by either fireballs or swipes, and then when they fall down, they'll break a rock in the middle, and Dangerous is able to escape the moon, and that's when time will stop.
You can do a couple of like jumps to the platforms right above our head there. The first one is called 2D skip, and that saves about 2 seconds from like traversing the rest of the 2D section. The second one is it's mostly for flashiness, I think, but it does save probably like a fraction of a second as well.
Dangerous, you didn't do XD skip, man. What
You're right, I didn't. I don't want to throw the GDQ run, all right? For something that loses time. That would be terrible.
Yeah, if you die any point in the sequence, you go back to the point where you captured Bowser, so it can lose like close to 2 minutes.
It's actually a really good point, yeah. Moon Kingdom is kind of scary because it is broken up into like really large chunks. But you don't really want to make mistakes here. Not terribly difficult, but there is always that kind of looming danger for sure. And so these are the pillars that we were talking about. We got the first pillar down with just fireballs angled properly, and then we can kind of just loop around and do all the rest. And time is actually going to stop pretty soon here. We're going to bust open this rock. We're going to hop into the pylon that is hiding inside, and as soon as we shoot out, and time.
GG's.
GG's. Now, this is world peace. So in order for us to verify that we've, saved the world properly, I'm just going to go take a quick visit to Toadette. I'm going to go make sure that we talk to her. What was the time on that, by the way? 1:15:39. Actually is a little bit better than I was expecting it to be with all of the shenanigans at the beginning. So yeah, just going to skip the credits really fast. We're going to go talk to Toadette, who is, the greatest character in the entire run. Very important.
Yeah, for sure.
Toadette is wonderful. She gives us a total of 61 power moons for doing arbitrary tasks. We have not really completed very many of them up to this point at all. But like we said, this is kind of our grounds for verifying that we've achieved world peace, is this Toadette achievement. So we just have to make sure that we go and talk to her and make sure that she's happy with the state of the world. You get a quick glimpse of Mushroom Kingdom if this is your first time. Nice little nostalgic throwback type of kingdom. Probably one of my favorite areas in the game. Just the way that it looks, brings back childhood memories.
My favorite until you start speedrunning it.
True. Yes.
Gotta agree on that one.
Here's Toadette. The moon she gives you first is actually a moon for just saving Princess Peach, which is fine. But then she's going to introduce us to her achievement moons. And you can see by these achievements... wait, where is it? The one right underneath. Number 45. It's in Chinese, you can't read it, but it does say World Peace achieved.
Yeah,
14
you're
out
just
of
gonna have
14.
to take our word for it.
Yeah. And that's it. That's Odyssey. So, man, that run was a bit of a roller coaster. We at least got to show that some of those tricks at the beginning, even if they were kind of sloppy, but it was a really, really cool showcase. I've always wanted to show world peace at GDQ, and thank you guys so much for the opportunity to do that. It just keeps getting better too. I think you picked a really good time to have world peace be included in GDQ because there's a lot of really cool tricks that just keep elevating as a result of things being found in this game. And the reason things keep being found in this game is because of the community that we have. It's massive. There's so many people working on so many different categories of this game. It really can't be understated just how accessible this game is as a speed game. So many people get into it because it's a really easy game to beat in one sitting. Even for somebody who has like very minimal grasp on platformers, it's something that you can just really easily get into. So it's very popular, and we have a really dedicated community that's always finding stuff. And lots and lots and lots of really good streamers, really welcoming environments and stuff, like including my boys on the couch. I'm pointing behind me like you're there, but you know, they're on the mics. So shout outs to Kerbis, shout outs to Lucidity. Thank you guys for joining me.
My pleasure.
No problem.
And thanks again to GDQ, and keep doing good stuff, you know, gaming for a good cause. That's what I like to see. So thank you so much.
That was an absolutely mind-blowing run. Thank you so much to Dangers. Chat, give him one more round of that virtual applause. I love to see it. Love to see it. We are steadily climbing the ladder towards $300,000. Just $800 to go. As we do, let me read one quick donation here for you. $5 from Lieutenant Humphrey, who says, I took care of your gift sub to the winner for putting on this awesome run. And here's a 5 spot in honor of Cartridge Blowers, one of the finest hosts out there. Cheers, everybody. Oh, thank you, Lieutenant Humphrey. And speaking of really, really great hosts, my time with you tonight is over. But I am being followed up by my favorite host, Iggy Zig. So you guys treat him real nice when he gets in here. I'm going to read you one last ad, and then I'm going to send you over to him. I want to tell you about Direct Relief. Direct Relief's COVID-19 coronavirus efforts are focused on the personal protective equipment, masks, gown, gloves, etc., that are most needed across the world. In addition to providing PPE, Direct Relief is supporting U.S. community clinics and health centers with chronic disease medications to make sure that people living with these conditions do not go into acute crisis as a result of the surge of people needing medical care due to COVID-19. Direct Relief is ramping up efforts to provide the prescription medications and medical resources needed for the most severe cases that require hospitalization and ICU care. You can learn more about Direct Relief's ongoing efforts related to COVID-19 at www.directrelief.org/emergency/coronavirus-outbreak.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Corona Leaf Done Quick. A GDQ event running live on Twitch in order to raise funds for direct relief. My name is Ziggy Zig. I'm hoping all y'all at home are staying safe and happy. And for everybody out there who is making the world turn, saving lives, know that all my love goes out to all of you. Now, this event may be winding down, but we have some incredible action waiting just around the bend. We have Super Metroid, a 100% run, going to be done by the one, the only, the Shiny Zenny. It's going to be super exciting. And we also, of course, have a bid war on the way, Save versus Kill the Animals. I'm looking at the totals. Save is on an absolute tear. So if anybody wants to help kill the animals, you want to fricassee some Decoras and get some Etacoons extra crispy, be sure to get your donations in towards it.